This, I think, is an opportune time to speak about the workplace because we're not at work. And number two, it can give us a different perspective on how about to approach our workspaces going forward. Why do I say this? I feel like, thinking about it now, I made a couple of mistakes when I went into my first year of ComServe, and I want to share my experiences so that maybe you, if you're going through the same thing right now during your ComServe, you can kind of redirect and refocus your energy when you're going into the workspace. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We have gone under 21-day lockdown, which isn't really a lockdown anymore, but that is a story for another day. Today I was so inspired by a movie that I watched, and now that everything has literally changed, I thought about speaking about the workplace. I noticed that I hadn't spoken about the workplace, which is something that I said I would address in my previous video. So here we are today. We are going to talk about the experience in the workplace. So predominantly I've worked in the government spaces, and I have had an opportunity here and there to work in the private sector. So what I'm definitely going to focus on today is the work sector in terms of the government space, because I think really right now the coronavirus, not only has it shown us how much work still needs to be done in our country, especially in South Africa, or like just globally in the world, in terms of making sure that people who are at a disadvantage are not continuously disadvantaged as the years progress. And I feel like COVID-19 has been one of those pandemics where I've been really thinking about people who have or who are in disadvantaged places. And a lot of the times the government is supposed to be the ones who are facilitating and making sure that everybody has equal opportunities and equal everything, really. But now that we have this COVID-19, it's evident that maybe some of the things that we have put on paper are not actually being implemented, or maybe the strategies need to be changed in facilitating equal opportunity for all. Now that everything literally is going to be different, especially in terms of governments, we need to talk about more on how we can help our own governments as the youth, as the upcoming generation, who are at the end of the day going to be seated at those seats doing all kinds of implementations, making that sure that people are not being left behind, making sure that everybody has healthcare, making sure everybody has equal opportunity to housing, shelter, food, all of those things. So that's what I wanted to kind of basically talk about right now, is experience in the workspace. I want us to focus on how we as the youth can go into these spaces and actually make a difference, and make sure that we are not repeating the mistakes of previous governments, of previous generations, and actually not looking so much in how we can better ourselves, but how we can better our country for everyone around us, especially for the upcoming generation, making sure that we are taking responsibility for the things that are happening currently in the workspace. So what inspired this video? I know you're thinking, this title said Bad Boys 3 something. Listen, what I learned for Bad Boys 3 was the most crucial lessons that I have been learning throughout this time since I started my ComServe. What did I learn? Firstly, let me share my experience about community service. 2016 was the year of my ComServe, and I was fresh out of varsity, and I was so excited, and I had all these ideas and I had all these goals, everything that I wanted to accomplish, everything that I wanted to do, everything that I wanted to change. look, I went even in December. After I found out my placement, I was like, okay, good shots. Went to where I will be working to familiarize myself, took the route going there, learning how to get there, and I was so excited. Actually, I wanted to go speak to the OT that was working at there, so that she can kind of give me the 411 in terms of what I need to do, what I need to prepare, all of those things. I mean, you're a student, you're excited. So I got there and she wasn't there, and I got to meet my supervisor who was going to supervise me for the first 6 months of the year, because the rule is you need to be supervised for at least 6 months, and then you are able to do things by yourself, right? Okay, sure. And I was like, okay, here I am. And then he opened this small office. The office was extremely small. Like, when I'm talking small, I'm talking like this small, promise. And it was packed. There was a plinth in there, there was a standing frame in there, there was a desk in there, there was boxes and boxes and boxes of things that I was just like, what in the world? Anyway, so I got to see my office, and I got to see the workspace just before I went there to start the following year. Then I went to my orientation day. I am serious, girl. Like, I am in my scrubs. I'm looking like I'm ready to tackle the first day. I got there, people were really chill. Like, for me, I feel like I was very naive about a lot of things. Like, so naive. But anyway, people are just there, not even wearing their scrubs, just chilling, waiting to see what's going to happen. So we did the registration, which took forever. And like, that's what you kind of will get in the when you get into the workspace. You're just like, shouldn't these people have a system that is working by now? I mean, what have you guys been doing all these years? So that's the kind of attitude like that I had. It was just like everything was so slow. The processing of our contracts, HR registering us in the system, everything was just so slow, and I didn't understand it. But anyway, eventually we did it. I mean, you're excited, you're so excited, right? At least that's for me. Then we started our first day, and the OT was generous and nice enough, and the OTs, please leave handover notes for the next therapist, no matter what your working situation is. Even if you are like really upset at the workplace, don't take it out on the OT that's coming. Leave her something to kind of give her a heads up, right? So the nice thing about this OT is she wrote everything for me that I needed to know, and she was like, girl, come surface what you make of it. And I was like, I don't get it. So the first few months, literally, of working, I was so unhappy. I was so unhappy. Actually, not just the month, the year. I was extremely unhappy, frustrated. Yes, there was job satisfaction, but I felt like my environment was so negative. I really felt like there was so much tension. Firstly, my supervisor was a physio, okay? Fine. But not really, because I'm an OT and he can't guide me in terms of what OTs do because he's a physio. First problem. Second problem was when I got there, there was already so much tension that had built up from the people that had been currently working there, right? I'm coming, I'm fresh from varsity, I want my point to be heard. I want you, look, I've got my own goals and whatever. And then I got into an environment where I felt like, whoa, there's a lot of tension. The other allied staff, the audio and the podiatrist, were not at good terms with supervisor, which was the physio. So it's like, where do you stand? Like, which side do you pick, right? So it was very, 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 very frustrating. But that could have been a good learning curve for me. And that is a learning curve for everyone. If you are currently in a situation where you feel like your workspace is like, that is your moment, that is your opportunity, that is where you will grow, that is where you will learn. So for me, this is where Bad Boys came in, and it made so much sense for me. When I walked in, I was like went from a high to like a complete dip. Why? I was watching Bad Boys and I realized that I had been wanting to speak about the work experience for such a long time, but it was very difficult for me to kind of pick an angle in which I wanted to approach it. So Bad Boys 3 helped me get my aha moments. So number one, Bad Boys, in terms of the work experience, showed us a bit of what happens when the new generation gets in touch with the old generation. That gap between the new generation and the old generation, this is what causes the conflict, right? When two things don't want to come together to work together. So for me, that was the biggest challenge. I got into the workspace and I was new. I had fresh ideas. I had this, I had that, and that's what I wanted to implement, right? Same thing with the MO group that had now been formed in Bad Boys. They were the new group. They were female run. They were young, innovative, and had all the necessary equipment or technology to kind of do things differently. And whereas Marcus and Mike had their own ways of doing things, especially Mike had his own way of doing things, and he was so rigid in terms of that. So that's why I thought the first mistake is in the fact that we are stuck at both our ends. I have a point to prove and they have a point to prove. How Mike approached it was like normal in terms of how people generally approach something new. They approach it with resistance because that's in our human nature, right? We don't want to learn new things. We don't want to learn things that are taking us out of our comfort zone. So he was very stubborn. He didn't want to listen, and their first mission was a complete mess because he had his own ideas and they had their own ideas. That's me. I went in there and I was so miserable in my ComServe year because I had my own ideas. I had my own ways. This is what I was taught in school. This is how we should do it. And I met resistance because here are people who already have a system that's been working for them maybe 2 to 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, ever many years that system had been working for them. And then here I was with my fresh new ideas wanting to come and impose them on people. So that's the first mistake. Don't impose your ideas on other people, especially in the workplace, because you will meet resistance. It is normal. It is a normal thing. We all go through it. It happens, right? Second mistake was which it's not a mistake that I made, but don't inherit beef. When I got into ComServe, there was so much tension. I could literally take a knife and cut it in half. And I really noticed that if we truly take beef that has been inherited, you don't even know where that beef comes from. So I was like, okay, what happens now? I did my best to not inherit the beef of either or side. I wanted to go there and have my experience and deal with things as I saw them coming. So that's exactly what I did. So the third thing that I went into my workspace and realized is know your position. So knowing your position helps because when you go into something, you don't want to cause more problems. You want to be there to find solutions and to help out, which is another thing that I kind of read from the Bad Boys 3. Mike didn't know his position, and hence their first system or their first job together was a complete mess. He just decided he's gonna go in there, he's gonna run in, and that's what's going to happen. When you know your position, you are able to read the situation like you should, number one, first, and act appropriately. And it helps you to be able to provide a solution. And that solution can be in terms of you working as a team to find a solution instead of working separately, and then you are sitting with an even bigger problem than before. Going back to my experience, there is a section or there's a part in the PMDS that says, and I will remember it till this day, because you as a newbie are able to either bring people together or continue to divide them. So you need to understand your position when you start your job. Are you a person who's going to facilitate teamwork, or are you a person who's just going to be there? Are you going to be a person who's going to facilitate teamwork, or are you a person who's going to facilitate more separation? So with me, I didn't think that was my responsibility, right? I didn't, to be honest, I didn't think it was my responsibility. And I was like, if people have beef, well, I am not getting involved. That affects a lot of teamwork, because I noticed even when we were supposed to do teamwork, home visits, screenings, visiting other clinics and all of that, it would be so difficult, right? Because even something as simple as signing out for the G-car would be a mission. Or, us working in one space would be difficult. Or addressing and teaching people at the clinic, no, you go first, oh no, you go first, it makes it so difficult if you're not going to have the mindset of knowing your position. Are you there to collaborate and help and work as a team, or are you there to serve? So knowing your place and knowing that you are there to be a collaborative in your team can help the other members actually just leave their beefs aside for a moment and do what is necessary and compulsory at that time. So it's crucial for you to know your place, and that's why it's crucial for you to not inherit any kind of beef that is within your workspace. You have to know your goals. You have to know what is it that you are there for, right? This is huge, right? Because it is so easy to go into something and get derailed. It is so easy if you don't stay focused on what your goal is. So going into ComServe, I didn't necessarily have goals in terms of at my workplace. I had personal goals, I had things that I was working towards, but I never really thought about that specific workspace. What do I want to achieve? And it's crazy how we are taught in school that you need to have a SMART objective. It has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be accurate. I'll put in the A. I always forget the A. It has to be realistic, and it has to be time specific. So whenever you are looking and you are setting those goals, consider the SMART objective. Everything needs you to have a SMART objective. Your workspace, your relationship, your job, your friendships, everything that I can think of, to be honest, requires you to understand what your SMART objective is. That kind of helps you in terms of moving towards and fighting towards the resistance and the tension that will build up or that you will find in your workspace. Now, how this came to me in the Bad Boys movie was at a particular scene where the captain is sitting with Mike and he's telling him the horse story. So basically he's saying that there's a guy who's coming very quickly towards another guy on a horse, and he's coming so quickly and the guy moves away from him and he's asking the guy, where are you going? And the guy on the horse is like, I don't know, ask the horse. And sometimes, and which he interpreted it as, sometimes we are being led by unproductivity, not thinking, not planning, not organizing, fear, doubts, lack of self-confidence, and we just don't know where we're going. We let those things kind of sit and fester in our minds, and we forget our core objective, and we forget what is happening and what we had initially planned to go for. Or because we didn't plan, we're kind of just going with the flow, and you can't expect the horse to know where you're going. You are the person who is leading the horse. You will always be the leader of the horse, never the other way around, because it just doesn't happen like that, because the horse is doing what the horse does, and you need to do what you are doing as a human being, and you are supposed to create order in your life. That's the only way you're gonna make sense of it, by creating that order, by creating that plan, by creating that SMART objective, by knowing exactly where you want to go. By the end of this year, by the end of your ComServe, by the end of 2020, what are the goals that you have set for yourself in terms of your workspace? And definitely one thing I know is inheriting beef will never be one of them. So that's why I'm saying have a SMART objective in your workspace so that you know at the end of the day where you are going. So by the end of the movie, by the end of Bad Boys 3, we find that the old is now kind of dependent on the new, and the new is dependent on the old, which teaches us the fundamental principles that unity is everything. Each and every person can learn from every other person. The old can learn from the new, and the new can learn from the old. It's a matter of putting your defenses down, putting your personalities aside, and saying, okay, look, I am coming with a fresh new mind from varsity, and I think this would be beneficial because of 1, 2, 3. But before you can kind of implement those kinds of strategies and changes, you need to sit down and learn the system. So learning the system means there was a point in time where Michael had to sit down and not be the one who's directing and watch how the ammo is doing. He had to sit down, he had to see their new technologies, he had to see what strategies they are implementing, which is the same thing when you are in a new working space. Sit down and look at what they are doing. And then after you can see that, okay, this is what they're doing, these are the kind of things that are implementing and they are working for them, then you can come in and say, you know, I've seen that this kind of a plan works, but how about we incorporating what you have implemented and we just give it a little bit of an upgrade. That way, either or doesn't feel not heard and not seen and not validated, because we saw a turnover where when Michael had his phone and he gave it to the computer guy, I forgot his name, and the computer guy helped Michael to get the contacts and everything that he needed. In the workspace as well, it's the same. We can both learn from each other, but as the new person, get into the system and look at what people are doing first before you bring your ideas, so that other people don't feel invalidated by your fresh and new ideas, or that they don't feel like you haven't considered what they have put in all these years. Because there are a lot of complexes that we work with. We work with a lot of personalities, and it's important that you sit and you watch everybody and understand their personality and understand their work style and understand their systems, so that you're able to move in there in a way that is constructive and that will be productive for everyone. After we saw that, it's possible to actually work together in a system in terms of Mike and Marcus versus the ammo, after we can see that there is a possible collaboration, we need to understand that principles never change. Principles never change. Methods change all the time, but the core and basic principle of everything never changes. The law of physics, the principles don't change. It's just the method in which the teachers teach them that change over the generations. The Bible, the principles in the Bible never change. It's just the method in which people are able to find different ways of preaching that makes the principles that more visible. So when we stick to the basics, the principles of OT will never change. It's only the method. The principles of physio will never change. It is only the method in which it will change. And by doing so, you are able to see that you are not invalidating any other person's ideas or the way they are working or the way they have contributed to the profession. You are just helping modify the method. It's just that simple. And when you start looking at things like that, when I was looking at Bad Boys 3 like that, I noticed that within my workspace, resistance is inevitable. In beef and making sure that you don't inherit beef is uttermost important. Knowing your position is excruciatingly important. Are you building or are you destroying? You kind of have to make that distinct line. Having a smart objective is absolutely crucial, so that you do not get derailed by all the other things that are going to happen in the workspace, because there are things that are going to happen in the workspace and you're not going to be happy about them. But we have to find ways and remind ourselves that this was my objective when I went in here, and I am going to make sure that I am carrying on with my objective and I'm meeting the things that I need to. After all of that makes sense to us, we realize that we are a unit. We are here to better each other. We are here to facilitate change. We're here to impact lives. We're here to save lives. We're here to work as a collaborative team to get somewhere. And by following those simple principles or following those simple tips, I think we can find our way as the young people in the government spaces that we've found that we are meeting a lot of resistance, a lot of tension, a lot of personalities, a lot of reluctance to change. We can find our way in a way that is not disrespectful, in a way that is not arrogant, in a way that is actually facilitating the change that we are all here to make. It's all good and well that we all want at the end of the day to be entrepreneurs, to be influencers, to be people who are making serious changes in this world. It does not mean that we cannot make change within our government as well. What this COVID-19 has taught me is that our government is in serious need of help and eager young people to help in the direction of this country. Our country is yearning for young people to come into the system and change methods. The principles don't change. It's just the method in which we get things done, or we get to teach the old people how to do things so that we are not leaving people behind. We have a United Nations agenda for 2030 that is trying to focus on not leaving anyone behind. But with this COVID-19, I have noticed that so many people are being left behind. The entrepreneurs, the people with disadvantaged backgrounds, people with disabilities, people with no access to basic sanitation, electricity, water, food. We have so much that still needs to be done in our country and in our world, and we cannot do it without the youth. So please make sure that you understand that you are crucially important. Your thoughts, your ideas, everything that you are coming up with in this day and age, the government needs it. Our government is not coping. Our government is not doing okay. And it is just going to cause more and more and more sadness, injustice, and infringement of people's rights if we do not take a stand as the youth and go into government spaces and be the change that we want to see in our country. Don't feel invalidated at your workspace. Don't feel unheard. Understand that you are valuable and you are heard. So use your voice and make sure that you are leading and taking your purpose with you where you are going. It is important that you understand that the world is in need of you. It needs you. We need your ideas. We need everything that you have learned, everything that you are coming in school with so much ideas, with so many things. Don't let the government system defeat you in such a way that you feel like, I'm not gonna make a change. Let me move into something else, or let me do something else because these people are not hearing, or there is a way for us that we can work as a team to bettering our country and the world at large. And we can only do it if we work together. So that was my kind of experience that I felt when I watched Bad Boys. I thought of my personal work experience when I first started occupational therapy, and currently I feel like the COVID-19 has shown me more than ever that our government is in serious need of young people who are not going to give up on the system, who are going to get into the system and change the trajectory of our country. If nothing else, COVID-19 has showed me that this is an opportune time for the young and the old to work together to making sure that our 2030 agenda and social development plans are actually being implemented, are actually being moved forward for us to be able to understand what exactly are we working for. We have goals that are set. Goals that are set that no one should be left behind. No one, especially in this COVID pandemic, no one should be left behind. But so many people are being left behind, and we are not doing them any justice by falling into the lie, I'm unable to make a change. You are important and you can make a change. You didn't study that degree by mistake. You didn't go into the spaces that you did by mistake. It will all make sense once you understand these fundamental principles, that you are important and you can implement a change, and the workspace is literally yours to change, to modify, and to make a better world. And please let me know how your work experience is going. Like, on the real, we have all been through something, and there's probably somebody who can help you if you feel like your working environment has been a little bit of a challenge. Also, remember, we have been blessed right now to understand that at the end of the day, we are in the same position as everyone else. And that is how you need to approach your working place. We are in the same boat, and we are here to make a difference. Maybe your way is different from mine, but it's definitely has one goal in place, and that is making an impact to having a better country, a better government, a better working space. And with that, thank you so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.